It's the end of the hoop season. Well, regular season, I should say. The playoffs is just getting started. So this is the best time of year. We'll talk about all that stuff: NBA playoffs, regular season, give our awards, everything. I'll also talk about wrap up college hoops and all of that stuff. As we didn't touch on it earlier, talk about Michigan, I guess, winning the championship, unfortunately. But this is Ballin Out, host Sean, Nate, Grant, back with you guys. I know it's been a minute, had some vacations and some other things going on, golfing and stuff, but you know, we stuck with it, back at perfect time, right before the NBA playoffs starts this coming weekend. So obviously we got a lot to talk about, like to unpack. And we'll talk about the official playoff predictions and bracket once they're official, later this week. But for now, we're just gonna touch on the play-in tournament, the regular season awards, give our regular season awards, and then also touch on some college hoop stuff. Mike Malone, former Denver Nuggets coach, headed to North Carolina to coach, which I guess some people have been saying the last couple of days. I've been seeing some things that it's a good hire, but it's also questionable. Going from pro to college. So we'll talk about that stuff.
I mean, season was pretty crazy. I guess I'll say shout out my fantasy basketball team getting the championship this year. Jokic, LaMelo, Kawhi, all these guys on my squad played great all year. Sean, you had a terrible team this year.
I did. I
You're
did.
gonna have to go back to the drawing board. I don't know. I don't know what happened, but it was not your year. So
I had the last pick of the draft in a 12 league. That's what it was. Once you get to pick 12 in a 12-man league, you can't do much. That's even fantasy football. Yeah, I think my first pick was Anthony Davis. I couldn't tell you who was
yikes.
after that, but yeah, as if Anthony Davis was your first pick, I
Yeah.
mean, there was very much I could do. There's very much I could do. Yeah, congrats on that, man. Yeah.
But I mean, I guess we can talk. Last time we talked, it was we were going over college, the tournament still. I think we left off. MSU was going in the Final Four. Sad that they lost the game to UConn, but this will be back next year. We'll rebuild. We'll be okay.
I hope so.
Yeah, we you hope so. That's true. It depends on what kind of players we can get next year. But in Michigan, first year in 26 years that a Big Ten team has won the tournament. So at least it was someone in our area. Obviously in our state, Michigan winning. But even though I did call it, it's a little bittersweet for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, I can't lie. Like, I've told a couple Michigan fans this secretly behind closed doors, but it was they deserved it. They were the best team. They showed it all season long. It just is unfortunate that the new landscape of just college sports in general now is just transfers. You need transfers to win. You can't really depend on 18, 19-year-olds to kind of, help you to get all the way to the championship. Like, I mean, Tom Izzo likes to do, some other coaches out there. So yeah, it was good for them. I can't really say congrats. That just sounds weird. That just feels weird. But I respect it. I respect the win. I can't say congrats though.
Yeah, I respect the national championship.
But yeah, I mean, just even in the championship game, I really thought that because of the injury to Yaxel, it was gonna possibly make it a little bit of a closer game and give UConn a chance, which it was at some points. But then at the same time, it was Michigan kind of just took over, um, and yeah, so I mean, you know, we'll see if they can keep going. I know a couple guys are coming back for next season under Dusty May. I know he was rewarded with a contract extension, so that was nice. I will say congrats to him about that. Coming from lower school and like you said, Nate, first Big Ten team in 26 years since Michigan State did it back in 2000 that there was a Big Ten national championship. So um, the Big Ten might run college sports now. We got Indiana and we got Michigan. So, and UCLA for women's too. So, the Big Ten's up there.
Mhm.
So we'll see. SEC, watch out, I guess. Yeah, speaking of, college hoops, did, obviously the transfer portal and all of that is coming about, over here in the next couple of weeks. But Mike Malone, former Denver Nuggets coach, was hired for North Carolina, University of North Carolina, after Hubert Davis was fired after their exits in the NCAA tournaments this year. I mean, what are you guys' thoughts, about it? It's just I'm curious to see how it'll go from him coaching, 20, 22, 23-year olds to 18, 19-year olds. But as I just said, transfer portal is key, in college hoops these days. So
Yeah, I think I had some interesting thoughts on this one here because I don't know, like it used to be like, yeah, coaching, college kids was a little bit easier, I think, at certain times, just in the sense that you really had to focus on some of the recruiting aspects. You were basically kind of building these guys up, getting them ready for the next level, and then kind of when you're at the NBA stage, I always thought it was like, yeah, you're still a head coach, obviously they respect you, but like they're professionals at this point. Like they do this. I mean, I'm not saying you don't need a coach in the NBA, you obviously do, but like at the college, I felt like it was a much more focal point. Like you need to have like if you get through a good coach, you go through a good system, like you'll develop well, you'll do all this. Now, like I don't know if that's like easier at all per se, going from the NBA to now be a college coach, because now you have to worry about every single player on your roster every single year leaving, graduating. Obviously injuries are just part of the game, but like you have to worry about every little piece of that now. And then once the season's over, you gotta do it again. Build, build, build. Like NBA at least, there's just more structure to it right now. There's yeah, there's contracts. Guys are physically like I mean, they're assigned to this team, this is what happens. Right now, like college basketball is just a nightmare to like with where we're at right now. I get we're in like the rough kind of draft of everything still, but it's like we're still playing ball. They're still crowning champions, and it's just like it's a free for all. It kind of seems like. So yes, I'll say like Malone's a good coach. I think he will do well for a couple of reasons. One, I just think he is a good coach. I think he will do well. But two, I think when you are at a UNC, some of those schools that have more kind of NIL, they got more money to kind of throw and UNC don't know how much now, but like definitely a blue blood. From history there. So it's a team that they're going to give him a lot of resources. They're going to make sure that if he does fail, it really is on him, and he just can't. He couldn't get it done. But like, I think he'll get all the resources, all the money. So I think two things can be true. I think it's going to be a harder move going from the NBA to going now college basketball, where again, just lack of better terms, the Wild West right now. But then two, I also think, going to a school like UNC where it's got the resources, it's got this, it's gone through good points, it's gone through high points, low points, the whole nine kind of in the past, I mean, 4 years, honestly. And so I think he will do well, but I think it's going to be a very cool challenge to start. Um, and I'm kind of curious to see how he does, like with the whole recruiting part of that, with the NIL and everything now, because it's just a whole different ball game, and we've seen college coaches, that haven't stuck through with it. It's just it really is a whole different game now. So good for him, of course. Congratulations, but it's going to be a dogfight, in my opinion. I think it's going to be a lot harder than just signing somebody that's a respectful name out there and putting them on a very historically great basketball teams.
Yeah, no, I like that take. I think I mean, I spoke about it before of like if UNC didn't really go far in the tournament, were they going to get rid of Hubert Davis and then look for another direction? Obviously, that's what they ended up doing. And kind of, yeah, with not totally similar to football, but like with how the schedule is now, like you kind of have to try to get a coach sooner rather than later so that you do try to fit in before that transfer portal window starts and then you can actually start recruiting some of these guys. Um, but yeah, I feel like normally with college, coaches, you are more apt to see guys go from college to the NBA back to college. But with Malone, I don't think he's had any prior college coaching experience. So it will be interesting to see kind of what his pitch is to some of these players. Can you really just say, "Oh, I was a NBA champion a couple years ago. Like, come to my program and I'll make you a NCAA champion." Like, I don't really know how. his pitch is gonna be, but I think, yeah, going to a school like UNC where they do have that history and the, funds to try and get some big name players, it'll help him a lot. It's just a matter of, like, how is he gonna be able to, gel with the college landscape of, the style of play? Because I mean, with the Nuggets too, it was like, you're coaching one of the best players in the game with Jokic, and you might have to really alter the way you're coaching a little bit now in college just because you're not going to have such a dominant player on the floor with you. But it was probably, yeah, only a matter of time before he actually got another shot coaching. It is surprising that it is in college. I mean, I saw too that like his daughter or something is at UNC playing sports. So maybe there was a little bit of a connection there already. But yeah, interesting hire. It's going to be exciting to see if more like college teams are going to look for like NBA coaches that might be on the hot seat this year if they want to try to bring them over to college, see if they do any better. But it'll be kind of like a matter of time to see it within college how he does. But overall, I'd probably say, UNC probably could have done a lot worse. At least they have someone who has a decent, reputable name in coaching basketball.
Yeah, and just real quick too, he did coach a little bit in college. He actually started
Really?
off at Oakland under Greg Kampe.
Okay,
That was
wow. So,
he was there for 1 year, and then he basically quit to go be a state trooper. Then he goes, "Nah, I'm good on that too." And then he went to Providence. He was never a
okay.
head coach there. That's the thing, though. He never was a head coach. He was always like an assistant
Mhm.
and whatnot there. But I saw the Oakland, like, oh, very interesting.
Right. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, so he does have a little bit of experience, but
I mean, back
especially
in
with the right,
1994, 95,
right, with how
nothing really.
much things have changed now, and also how big of a program UNC is, it'll be fun to see kind of how he can adjust to that. But yeah, I mean, congrats to him. UNC, they're gonna have to prove it now, see how they can stay at the top of the ACC and college basketball landscape in general.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with both of those. And my thing too, I mean, just real quick, I was really thinking that he was going to get hired, in the NBA, and Billy Donovan was going to,
Mm,
say I'm done with Chicago and then go to UNC, because he's been the college before. So yeah, no, it was definitely surprising when I saw the notification. I was like, whoa, not definitely expecting that. But yeah, I mean, I think you guys both hit it, my points as well. Like it's a lot different now, but I see it being similar to kind of the NBA structure of how he was, just because of like the transfer portal, right? You guys got signing NIL and like at the end of the season. So, like the NBA, you might not have, the same 15 guys, each season you go, and pick up a couple role players and bench players, maybe a few starters switch here and there.
mhm,
And, I mean, UNC, they haven't really had any one and dones in a while. I mean, yeah, you got Caleb Wilson, this year, but I can't really remember, of a one and done recently, that had like that name star power. So, that'll be used to his advantage, I think, as well. Trying to get guys that maybe want to stay a couple years. And I could, same because I mentioned, Kurt Signetti from Indiana, and Dusty May from Michigan. I could see it, this first year for him next year being a little shaky, just because, he's getting used to it, and trying to bring in, I'm assuming, probably transfers and, freshmen if, committed freshmen decide to stay. But I could see like year 2 or 3 UNC starting to, if he does good this first year, I could see, a complete, turnaround, and possibly, them, being maybe the blue blood that they're supposed to be. This first year, I think it'll be a little bit difficult for him just because of just he'll have to get used to, the college landscape, like you guys both said. But I am
right.
interested to see, how this kind of goes, over the next, couple of years for him and UNC. Excited to see, obviously that matchup Duke and UNC, I think will be even a little bit more now. With John Shire and his kind of always good in the regular season, but can never get it done, in the tournament, and then new head coach at the helm for UNC, and their history. So I think it'll be even more interesting in the next coming years, to see how that goes. So yeah, definitely
Mhm.
looking forward to that. And um, Yeah, I think college basketball is changing. Like you guys said, the just the transfer portal and all that is getting a little bit different. So I guess we'll end up seeing what ends up happening over the next couple weeks here with all the people putting their names in the draft and transfers and all that stuff. That's always cool to catch up on and follow up to. So yeah, so moving on from college sports, we got back to NBA. Um, like I said, end of the season, it's here. So we got the play-in tournament that is this week. But before we'll talk about that in a little bit, but I want to touch on end of NBA season, regular season awards. So obviously, we gave our preseason awards. I should have went back and saw what we all did, what we all came up with for that. But I think they'll be pretty similar to what we had. And then collectively, I think we'll be pretty similar across the board. I think maybe first and second team could change up a little bit. But yeah, we'll see what ends up happening here. MVP, let's start with that though. What you guys got? I have SGA. I know, I just think he went to my vote initially because Kiwi's not gonna get the games, but I gotta go SGA here. Not just because he's had another dominant season all around.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm definitely going SGA for sure. I think he definitely earned it this year. I think he and Cade got there. I still think SGA would have got it, but nothing against Cade. I think SGA had a really good season again.
yeah. No, the only thing I would say about the MVP is like just within this last couple weeks, it was fun to see Wemby really try to go for it, put up some crazy stat lines, and also with Jokic, I feel like he's always going to be consistently a guy that's in that top three for the MVP. But man, it's just like every year he consistently makes that team go, and I think it is becoming like so normal now that it's like almost boring. But I mean, the same thing happened with like Westbrook when he was averaging triple doubles for multiple years, and it's kind of the same thing with Jokic. And I think after this year with SGA will most likely win it, but what will next year look like? Because are they going to say, oh well, if SGA has another great year, then can we give it to him again, or do we give it back to Jokic, or do we go to Wemby now? Like, so it's going to be interesting, I think, now for the upcoming years, see how the MVP is going to be. Just because you have so many guys that every single year could win it. It's just how is it kind of the narrative and votes going to sway at the very end of the year? But yeah, I think Shea probably deservedly will take it home this year.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, SGA and Jokic, I think it's what, 3 straight years now that they've been basically 1 and 2, head to head for the MVP. So, like you said, eventually I think there's gonna be a time where the voters are like, yeah, we respect their game. Obviously, we know what they bring, but is this
Mhm.
MVP, worthy now? So yeah, you got guys like Wemby, Luka, if he ever, can consistently play in the regular season. And maybe, other guys like Cade, Anthony Edwards, things like that. We'll see what ends up happening. But yeah, I think at this year SGA, he'll be back to back. Defensive player of the year. Oh, I know you guys are probably gonna say Wemby for this one. I had to keep it home a little bit. I gotta go with Star Thompson. Star Thompson
Mm,
has been, obviously he's probably not going to win it because of Wemby. But just if you go back and you watch the games, you watch the footage of just, what a Star Thompson brings to the table, defensively, it's just, mind blowing. He's averaging almost, the most steals in the league, and he's just a menace all around. Basically, can take your best player out of the game, right? Uh, so yeah, he's good. I know, even Wemby was speaking of Wemby, he was vouching for. He was like, "Yeah, he should win it," but he was like, "Only other person he would respect to win it is his teammate Stephon Castle," which he's got an argument as well too, because he's one of those guys that can lock up your best player as well. A guy that's averaging 25 points and hold him to about 10, 15 points. So I think defense player. Yeah, I'd say this is it's always a tight award. It has been for the last couple years, but this one might be a little bit closer, I think, than it has been in the last couple of years. Especially, because Wemby should have won it, But, I know Grant, me and you always said, this award will be named, the Wembanyama Defensive Player of the Year award, just because of how many times he's gonna win it. Last couple of years, like he was hurt and didn't get the games. But yeah, I mean, this could be the year that that does start, that he just rattles off like 5 straight Defensive Player of the Year awards. But if that doesn't end up happening, this year, maybe next year, I'd love Star Thompson to get it.
Yeah, I mean, I respect the Osar Thompson one. He definitely has been um, absolutely hooping on the defensive side there, like you mentioned, just clamping up, the best guys out there, really interfering with the offensive flow of some of the other teams. But yeah, but I think at the end of the day, like Wemby, it's just his time. He definitely deserves it this year. There's no doubt about that. Like you mentioned, I really do think he's going to win this award probably for the next 5, 10, 15, how long he's in the NBA for.
The rest of his career,
Yeah, literally, yeah. They're just like before the season starts, it's like, hey, by the way,
just give it to
here's
him.
yeah, here's this. By the way, you'll
There you go.
you'll need it at the end of the year. But yeah, he definitely deserves it. I mean, I saw Thompson too. I guess like yeah, if you're looking at what he's able to do against some of the better guys in the league, like yeah, there's definitely an argument for him to be up there. But Wemby, what he's able to do 1 through 5, I mean the way he can clamp up, right? It's not even fair sometimes. And so yeah, so that's why I'm gonna give.
Yeah, same. I not really much to say. He's been a freak all year, defensively. And I mean, when you see some games, he has like 7 blocks, like consistently. It's like holy crap. But yeah, Wemby for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Six man. Now keeping it Spurs. Gotta go Keldon Johnson here. I was gonna go Peyton Pritchard, but I think I was doing some research. I think he's over the limit, just because of how many games he started. So I'm gonna go, Keldon Johnson here. Um, just was the ultimate glue guy really for the Spurs all season long, and he was a guy that used to be a starter. But as the team has, changed and got a lot better, with draft picks and things, he was, willing to come off the bench. And obviously he's having a stellar season. Coming off the bench and being that spark plug. And especially in three, shooting the three ball, he's been efficient with that. So that's why I went Keldon Johnson for this year's six man of the year.
Yeah, I went with him as well. However, Marquez from Miami, he definitely got an argument to be up there. Um, Averaging more assists, I think less rebounds, a little bit more points. It's like he's up there, but like just watching Keldon Johnson too, and I think he just fits in that system a little. I mean, the Spurs just have a good system, I'll say too. Like I think part of that is, um, being the sixth man, you're obviously trying to make an impact, but you also kind of need some other guys too. You're not going to be just the straight scorer. Um, I think just his true shooting numbers. I think he's like shooting like it's like 13% better than Hawkes. Uh, the other day, I'm going to go with Keldon Johnson there and just yeah, stick with the Spurs like you said.
Yeah, looking at the odds, he is the big favorite right now. I feel like all year though, this was a award that really wasn't talked about a lot, just because I feel like the guys who are kind of in this list, Johnson, Jaquez, Naz Reid, like they also kind of every now and then would rotate into the starting lineup, just whether it be because of injuries or they would play every now and then. Reed Shepard, another guy. But yeah, I mean, Keldon, he's probably gonna win this one as well. I think just with how good the Spurs were, like what you were saying, Sean, like they have so much talent that at this point now he is just kind of pushed onto that bench unit. But yeah, I feel like this. I think earlier in the year I said like AJ Mitchell, he ended up getting hurt, so he couldn't really make it at all. But I mean, the six man every year is just kind of. I feel like it's a hard award to give to, just because it's really this out of any of the awards. I feel like is based more on like what are your stats
Mm.
and the limited amount of minutes that you had. Uh, but yeah, for this one, they'd probably give it to a guy who's, their team is the best in in the Western Conference. But Nasri too, I feel like he has pretty good argument too. After getting a pretty big contract over the off season, sometimes after that happens, guys don't normally perform as good as they should, and he's still been hooping just like normal. I saw like a couple things too with like um the Timberwolves. I don't know if it was like, oh, should the Timberwolves have kept Nas Reed or should they have whoever they traded last year again? I don't even remember. I'd have to look it up again. I mean, he's from what it seems like gonna be a pretty big staple on their team the next couple of years. But yeah, it's a war. I mean, kind of a toss up every year. I feel like though.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I agree with you about the stats thing. I think it goes to basically whoever's got the better stats, and then I think, team record has a little bit to do with it as well. If you're on a
Or sorry,
team.
the other guy was Nikhil Alexander Walker for the Timberwolves. It was like between him and Nas Reed, like
Mhm.
who should they keep? And Nikhil's having a really good year. Potentially, if we talk about this next, like most improved player. So it was kind of like who the Timberwolves keep between those two guys. Who's going to be more impactful? But that's who I was thinking of.
Yeah. Okay. Well, speaking of most improved, Nah is good, but I gotta go Jalen Duren here. The way that he came into this season, it was a contract year, his 5th year. The whole thing was, yeah, he didn't get the extension last year, right? Um, he only averaged, 11 and 10, and it was like, we need, either Jalen Duren to step up or, maybe like, this was his last year. This man comes in this year, 8-point jump, uh, averaging 19 and 5, doing it a little bit better defensively, very efficient this year. I mean, there's been a couple games that he's only, hasn't missed a shot or only missed, like one shot. So I mean, my vote, for most improved is Jalen Duren. Dual respects the argument for Nikhil Alexander Walker, but I think when you talk about just the teams, I know the Hawks had a little bit better in the second half of the season, but you got to respect the Pistons. He's been doing it all season. The Pistons have been doing it all season, and so I think that has to go in a little bit consideration there for him to get that award.
Yeah, I did go with Nikhil Alexander Walker, but I definitely I like the Jalen Duren pick there. I mean, obviously hometown, I got to watch him a little bit more too. The only thing with that I'll say is I think obviously on the defensive and rebounding side of things, yeah, he is absolutely I think really improved his game in that sense. But a lot of I think still his offense, I think just it's Cade is I think just really, really good. I think two things can be true too. Obviously I think Jalen Duren is getting a lot better, but I almost want to credit to more Cade with how he really is like a pass first type of guy, but when he wants to get a bucket or we simply can't get a bucket because we don't have any shooters, he will just take over and just get it done. So it's like I think they complement each other very well, and I think, Jalen Duren is a very solid player, but I think again some of it too is I gave a little bit more credit I think to Cade. So that's kind of why I went with, Nikhil Alexander Walker, who's played really, really well too to close out the end of the year too. And I think he was a major part of that. Especially just with all, the trade and everything that happened with the Hawks. It was like, well, where do they go now? What happens with them? And they really just kind of got better, actually. They kind of just kept kind of moving up. I really thought they finished the year very well, and um, a lot of credit to him as well. So that was my pick.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there, Grant. I think, like you said, Cade definitely made the whole team better. Obviously, his Durant stats got way better and scoring wise because of it. And you could probably have the argument too with McHale, like since they got rid of Trey Young and he wasn't really playing, like he obviously had more of an opportunity to score. But I mean, jumping from under 10 points last year to over 20 now this year, it's uh he's definitely been like one of their main focal points. But Sean, I do not hate your argument either. I think with the Pistons being a 1 seed for the first time in, you know, 15 years plus, like they probably should deserve a little bit more respect than what they're getting in terms of voting award wise too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, and
like
like I said, I respect like not like you said, from going to 9 points to 20 points, like that pretty much like yes, that does give you that award. Like you should definitely, be able to do that. And then, Grant, you hit it, the trade, I think that's another thing too. Like the Trey Young injury, then the trade, I think that kind of opened up the opportunity, for Nah to kind of, jump into this because I think when he signs to go to Atlanta this offseason, And I think, Atlanta knew it too. Like they thought of him as, the sixth man. Um, and so,
Mhm.
for him to kind of, like I said, during the injuries and then the trade for him to step up, definitely a credit to him and is why, they're a top six seed in the Eastern Conference, to go to the playoffs.
Well,
So
and
yeah,
I will say the one argument that I do think would help Duran more is I think his game actually like improved more in terms of what he did offensively, like adding more of a little bit of a pull up jumper, pushing the fast break a little bit more. I think last year you kind of saw what you know I was capable of on the offensive end. I mean, he obviously improved scoring wise, but I don't know how much more he added into his game. I think he just got more of a role to be able to do what he probably already could do. But I am hoping, yeah, with Duran, like he just continues to get better offensively because when he first got drafted, it really was like lob threat, rebounder, shot blocker. But now that he's actually, adding some other facets to his game, putting the ball on the floor more, I do think that gives him a better argument for an award like this.
yeah, I would agree. Through the year, this one I think I know, we did. I do remember talking about this one, whether if it was preseason or middle of the season. But the argument was between Knuppel, and Cooper Flag. I think it still is. I'm going to go Khan though. I'm gonna go Khan just because
Mm.
of the Hornets' full chances of going to the playoffs. And their turnaround in the second half, of the season. Basically just they weren't supposed to really be in this position that they are in right now. I get, the Coop, he dropped the 40-point games back to back, first teenager since Mike. Then, you add on, the injuries that he's dealt with without his team and just the Nico Harrison mess that kind of put the Dallas Mavericks and Cooper Flag in a terrible position. I see, the Cooper, yes, first pick, he's got to get it, averaging 20 points, fair. But I think, also if you put team success into these awards, like some of them are, I think Khan's got to get the nod there.
See, I completely disagree, respectfully. Yeah, like for me, and I say I've also said this too with like the MVP awards, the Defensive Player of the Year, but really MVP, I think it's most prevalent. It's like, yeah, you could still have a team that's say like 500 versus a team that's like say just take the Thunder right now, 64-17 versus like middle of the pack. We'll say like Phoenix, 44-37, or even Portland, say 41-40. So you had a guy that's like just, I mean, absolutely cooking on Portland, and then OKC obviously take off SGA for purposes of this. They just have just a really complete team, but one guy kind of obviously shining a little bit more. Like, would I give it to him on that best team, or like, say if I give it to the guy on Portland, that's absolutely kind of, in my opinion, carrying that team, even though that might not be like the best team. I always say, like in my opinion, like take that guy off the team, and what are they now? And so, like for me, like I get like Count is great. He definitely boosted them to be in the spot that they are now. And I'm not saying that Dallas could really get much worse because it can't really get much worse. But like that team, I mean, really has been an absolute shit show the whole season. Really, I mean, just after Luca, it just felt like, I mean, I think like they physically felt that in the arena for like the first half of the season. Like you could just know it's like this is still just kind of weird. And so asking him to go in there and do what he's been doing and just individually performing to that level, like you mentioned with some of the 40-point games, triple double. I mean, just playing really, really good individual ball. Putting the record aside, I still think I'm gonna give the nod to Cooper Flag because I think he's just more of a complete player right now where it stands. I think Khan is a phenomenal player, absolutely really, really good, but like I think Coop could be a generational player. I think he's a guy that's gonna be around for a while. I think it's just watching him play, it's hard to, not give it to him. It's kind of, I mean, like not like Bron and Melo when they were there, but it's like obviously, Melo's a really, really good player, and in any other year when LeBron's not there, you're probably gonna win that one. And I'm not saying that, it's like that, but in a sense, I think just Cooper Flag is just that type of guy. And Khan is phenomenal as well, but I'll give the nod to Coop.
Yeah, that's funny. I was just thinking about the LeBron and Melo comparison. It's not the exact same, but I think during that year, like I think the Nuggets were obviously a little bit better than the Cavs were,
Mhm.
and maybe that kind of added to some of the conversation of should Melo be MVP or Rookie of the Year. But yeah, when you look back in 5 years from now, I think more people are going to be like, "Oh, I remember Coop scoring 50, Con potentially breaking the rookie 3-point record, or other things like that." But yeah, they're both great players, like no shit. But I think for how hyped up Coop was all season, and for how much kind of up and down his team was, he at least was pretty steady all season for his output. And yeah, too, like I think there's probably multiple times in the year where he probably could have shut it down because he was dealing with some ankle injuries or some different little small things here and there, and he's continued to play. So that's something I can kind of respect too, is like pushing through a down year even when you really didn't have to go as hard as you probably did. So, but yeah, it's fun to see that, especially since they were teammates in college last year. Like
Yeah.
them both do really well this year.
Yeah. No, I like that argument, and like I said, I can't I won't be, like, mad, or anything, like, if Coop gets it, because yeah, I mean, he obviously, I think, is right there, and like you said, Grant, I think he is a generational talent. But yeah, I just, the whole like you said, like I said, the team aspect of it, just kind of, being I mean, you look at the Hornets, I mean, this was the same team that they were a year ago. They started off terrible, and then, Khan kind of picked it up, and, they got kind of better. So, you possibly could elevate the team, but then, you look at it the Maverick side, and I mean, they had Kyrie. They knew they weren't having Kyrie to start the year. Anthony Davis, you already knew it was going to be a question mark of, is he going to play or is he not going to play every game? And then you had the injuries to Lively and Gafford and PJ Washington out for some time. So, and then on top of that, Cooper was asked, "Hey, go out there and play point guard," and he's a wing player. So, yeah, he's definitely probably dealt with a little bit more. And like you said, Nate, fought through it and played through it. No hesitation, no question. So yeah, I guess for me, it's kind of a toss up for both of those. I wouldn't be upset on either. Before we get to our first and second team, real quick, coach of the year, I have JB Bickerstaff for the Pistons. I know I've been seeing some things over social media, about, Joe Mazzulla, and I understand it, but here's my thing about the whole Joe Mazzulla situation. I mean, yes, it's a newer roster, I guess, from, last year, this year, without Drew Holiday, without Chris Stapps, or, Al Horford. But, I mean, it's still, like, the same, like, core. You had Jaylen Brown, you had, Sam Hauser, Payne Pritchard, obviously Tatum was there for most of the season. But, I mean, for them to be the 2 seed still, I mean, it's okay, I know a lot of people, including, myself, had them a little bit lower, maybe playing, but I don't think that's up to what JB Biggerstaff has done. I mean, 60-win season, and 2 years ago the Pistons had 60 losses. So if we go to 60 losses to 60 wins, and then you jump, this last year, fringe 6 seed, top 6 seed, then you're the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. It's like I think I think JB Biggerstaff, no question, should get the award for what he's, just done this year. So yeah, that's my little rant on supporting JB.
See, I'm gonna be honest. You actually gonna hate me because I'm part of the people here. I think it's still 50-50 between. I really don't
It's
know
not.
between JB and Joe Mazzulla. I get it. Like obviously JB, you know, just basically a 60-win season. We'll call it here. Uh, Taking us to the number 1 seed, doing everything. I think we know all about that. However, I think a lot can also be said too. What we were talking about, is this Boston team even going to make the plan? We were saying that earlier in the season. I get that not a whole lot changed, and yes, Tatum came back a lot sooner than expected. But like to handle all of that, to get them to a top 2 seed and Philly is still about to maybe run it back, I think we can all agree that none of us said they were even gonna be higher than a 6 seed. Like, guaranteed, we said they would be fighting for
Mm,
play-in at that. There does have to be some argument for him to be up there. I get your rant, Sean, I get it. 2 things can be true also, because like, I think at the end of the day, both guys, like Jaylen Brown and Cade, basically have to put themselves, like, up in MVP conversation to kinda get those teams up there. So, obviously, I think, coaches, yes, but those guys, I think, deserve, in my opinion, more credit. Like, for me, that's why I say just with, like, everything with Boston was like, okay, like, they're not gonna be doing this, they're gonna be just fighting for a playing spot, they'll get a good draft pick, and then Tatum comes back next year, and then boom. But he basically just said, "Screw that. We ain't gonna do all of it. We're basically just gonna keep fighting now." And kind of the way he kept that team together there, kept them on target. I think it's still 50-50. I really don't know who I go with personally because I think both feats are like truly like impressive. Pistons getting the 1 seed, like you mentioned, Sean, after literally losing 60 games a couple seasons ago, deserves all the credit in the world. Um, and kind of a team that everyone thought wasn't even going to be close to up here, even in a weak East at that too, is easily going to be top top 2 seed there.
yeah.
No, you both have good arguments. I don't know because I probably would lean JB just because I think the expectation at the beginning of the season was for the Pistons to be one of the top teams. Um, and for him to be able to kind of live up to that just kind of proves that he was built, and this team was built for that challenge. And I have seen some things like I know Jalen Brown said like, oh, 50 wins on a down year or whatever like that. But looking back at it now too, like the players that they lost, Horford, Porzingis, like some of these guys, I don't think they would have necessarily like been make or break for their team was still really good and they still have if anything you could say okay maybe guys like Gonzalez and Shireman some of their bench players stepped up a little bit more to help them out but they still had a pretty decent squad other than losing Tatum so it's not like they had to fully guarantee on someone like I mean, they were relying on Brown at the beginning of the year to do well, but I think even more there was more pressure on Cade to be like, be an MVP guy this year and lead this team to even if they wouldn't have gotten the 1 seed, like from a 6 seed to whatever, if they would have gotten 3, I think that would have been a more impressive thing than the Celtics being like, oh, we were a 3 seed last year and we got the 2 seed this year. Like only incrementally better, even though the narrative might have been like, we should have been way worse. I think from the outside, yeah, you could say Missoula probably had to deal with not having his star player, but really you still had a guy who was going to average 25 regardless. And the Pistons, all year had kind of had to fight to make sure that they remain at that top spot. So I'd probably give it to JB just based off of what you were saying too, of like incrementally getting better every single season, where other teams in the East, they really haven't had to make that leap per se.
Yeah, Grant, I get your point, man. I respect the Joe Mazzulla, and what he's done, this year. It is special. Definitely, seeing as I mean, possibly no one had them, up there. But I don't know. I guess I might be a little bit biased on this one, just because I want to see as many Pistons, get rewarded for this season and what they've done. Uh, but
You are, you are
yeah.
biased. No,
I am, I am.
yeah, you are, you are.
I mean, it's just I just think that, with the roster, with losing Tim Hardaway, the Malik Beasley situation, you bring in Duncan Robinson, Karis LeVert, don't get me started on him. And for JB to be able to do that. Plus, I mean, like you said, Grant, earlier, about Duran, Cade has definitely elevated his game and made this team better. But I think, JB and the coaching staff also has a huge part to do with that as well in making him comfortable in spots, to be able to make him better and, expand his game. So that one I think is going to be probably the tightest race, I think, out of everything. I think the coach of the year is going to be the tightest one. Um, right next to Rookie of the Year, just because I mean both of those guys have arguments. Mark Dagnall, you know, he's probably not going to get it. Mitch Johnson for San Antonio could be up there as well, just because what he's been. This is his first, yeah, this is his first year as the full time head coach for the Spurs. But I mean, then you look at it, it's like the Spurs system in Wembanyama. Like we all knew that it was imminent to happen. It was just a matter of Wemby getting healthy, and everyone else around him, staying healthy. Yeah, I think both those guys have a great argument to do that. And so for first and second team, real fast, I just did offense. Defense. I mean, it takes a little bit. Gotta go through stats and stuff, but offense. So my first team, and then we can go down the line real quick. And this is dependent on the whole Luka situation. So I didn't have a replacement for him. But I do have a replacement for him, so we'll see. So I'll give it with Luka. So the first team with Luka, Jaylen Brown, Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Victor Wembanyama. If Luka is not able to get it, I have Brown, Jokic, SGA, Kawhi, and Wembanyama.
Oh my.
I said if Luka does not get the exception.
You said first team, right?
I mean,
You said
yeah,
first
this is
team?
first team, yeah.
Good
Yeah.
lord. Good lord.
The only way Kawhi would get it is if Luka does not get the requirements. But I think they're gonna. It's Adam Silver's golden boy. I think he's gonna get it.
I don't hate Kawhi though because Loki he did have an amazing year, and for him to be as healthy as he was, and for the Clippers to be as shit as they were, and then make it like all the way back to 500, you do have to give them some props. And I mean, it's hard too because I mean I'm looking at the list of guys who can't make it, like Ant,
Yeah.
Cade, Giannis, D-Book, Steph. Like you really
Yeah.
don't have a ton of other options. Like maybe you could say Donovan Mitchell, um, but at the same time, there's not maybe James Harden. Like, but I don't really think he's gonna get it. So I don't hate it, but it's a weird year. I know we talked a little bit too about the whole 65 game rule and how they might switch that up in the next couple seasons, just so we don't run into problems like this because it might not fully tell the whole story of the season, but
Right.
I don't hate that list. I probably have something similar, if anything different. I don't even know really who would be that fifth guy if Luca isn't there.
Yeah, Donovan Mitchell gotta have
That's
an
the thing
argument.
too.
I
I was
mean,
trying to. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know either. I think what you had, Sean, I think is probably what my list would be. I really honestly hate the 65 game rule. Like it really pisses me off right now. Uh, just because I really don't think it's a fair assessment for some of these guys that actually have like injuries that linger for. It's like say because like for example now, say a guy is out like 2 weeks or whatever. That's X amount of games, whatnot. You can only miss like 3 more or 4 more, whatever it is, like borderline. Like you're basically trying to encourage that player to rush back from an injury. Like that's not good either. Like that's
Hmm.
not something we should be encouraged. So like I don't know that real quick. It's just
Well, bro, I'm sorry. I'm taking either Tyrese Maxey or KD over Kawhi. I'm sorry, but they were better this year for
didn't I
sure.
have my very very hot take like the very start of the year off was Tyrese Maxey MVP conversation top five.
Yeah,
You
he was
did.
averaging like
You did,
35 for like
I
half
kind
the
of cooked on
season.
that one. I think you should still be up
bro.
there.
I don't know though. The Claw was on my fantasy team though, so he was an integral part this season. But KD, I mean, KD was hooping this year too. He can't
I got
really
him second team though.
He's
for
on my
his age
second
too.
team.
Yeah,
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 I think he's
Katie's on
firm
my
on the
second
second
team.
team.
Maxi, I respect. He can be on the first team if Luca doesn't make it, but I
Yeah,
don't
I got
know,
Maxey on
man. I
second
don't
though, because
know.
I got Luca making it. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, it's Adam
yeah.
Silver's NBA, and he'll take
They
care of
got to.
Luca.
They can't screw him over again.
Nah,
Yeah.
he's gone through
He's
too
had
much
like the
lately.
worst year of all time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I also had for second team real fast, Jalen Johnson. He's on my second team.
yeah, yeah.
Jalen Duren, he's on my second team. And I got Brunson as well with KD and Maxi. right there. And then obviously if well, I guess I'd probably take Brunson off, drop him the third team, if Luka's on first team, then put Kawhi on second team, switch that up to
Mhm.
that, Brunson would drop the third team. But I mean, yeah, Jalen Johnson. I mean, we talked about the Hawks earlier. Jalen Johnson's been having an outstanding season, all
Yeah.
year
No, that's just
long.
crazy though that, like, all those guys that I said that can't make the list, they won't even be on a second or third team, bro. Like, how can you even
Yeah,
how can you talk about the season without putting Cade on not even one All NBA team? Like,
yeah,
it's just
yeah,
they definitely have to do something about it. Same with, like, even a guy like, you know, Austin Reeves having a crazy year for the Lakers, like, he's not gonna be on any sort of team. I don't know. There's just a lot of Anthony Edwards too. Like, I mean, yeah, I feel like they gotta do something about the 6-5 game rule.
yeah.
You're gonna look back and be like, Where'd these guys go?"
Right. And
Where
Wemby
have
gave
they been?
a great spiel about it the other day, at his press conference. I don't know if you guys saw it, but basically he was doing math and he was like, he came up with, a guy plays, 30 minutes and he plays, 65% of the season, or 70% of the season. It's 61 games, 62 games. Um, so I think they should do that. Either make it 62 games or make it a number like minutes. I think just this 65 game rule, because like you said, Grant, it's basically, if you have an injury, you're basically telling guys to rush back, you know, to make sure they get this award to essentially helps them, in their paycheck because most of these things you get these awards, they're bonuses, and they hit, for guys. And so, that's messed up. You're basically putting yourself out there for a longer term injury, basically to get some money, is kind of insane. I understand like the rule and what it was doing, the load management and things like that, but as Miguel Kawhi has said, just because of the rule, it's not gonna, make people. If you're actually hurt, you're hurt. You're not gonna go out there and play the game, And if you're not, you can go. Then yeah, you're gonna go. But it's just, yeah, like you said, you're rushing back. You're basically telling guys to rush back from injury. And I understand, medicine has took a huge advancement and things like that, and can help people. But at the same time, it's like, dude, say it's a knee injury, you're risking somebody, to miss 2 weeks. Oh, I can't miss these 2 weeks. I can only miss a week because I got to get
Yeah.
this award, and basically telling them to risk it out there. They can blow an ACL and then you miss the whole next season. So it's just, that's crazy to me. See, I think they need to either lower the games to like 60, 62 games, or just put it in minutes. You got to have a certain amount of minutes logged and then, kind of go from there. And I think minutes would be a little bit easier because, okay, you can play like 30, 35 minutes one game, but then if you play 20 minutes another game and then get hurt, you technically are still okay. Like you still can qualify for the, award. So, yeah, I think they gotta change it. I think they are. They're already changing the tanking stuff, so you gotta change this as well. So, yeah, I think it's only fair to do that.
Well, I think honestly, like just an easy fix. Like let's just be honest, like just do like just play half the games. Like at this point, like who's it going to affect at this point? Really, it's like I mean, lower to a number. It's like if you really don't play half the games, and like I think in everyone's opinion, yeah, you got no business. It's got to be like I mean, something like that. Because I get some of these guys now want to sit out for like if it's back to backs or something of that nature. But you also have guys that like hamstring injuries, for example. That's like something you don't really know. It's not like I pulled my hammy last night. I'm gonna be out a week. It's like you just don't really know. So like there's some stuff where yeah, kind of like I was mentioning, you can't force these guys to come back and try to play when they just can't physically go. Like, like your goat, Sean. You were saying if they can't go, they can't go. So so yeah, I totally get that. I
Adam
think
Yeah,
Silver fix that shit.
yeah, definitely gotta lower it to something. I mean, I know half the
yeah.
games is a little egregious, but like it definitely I think we can all agree as fans, if you don't play half the games, there's absolutely no business for you.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I agree with that, absolutely. Yeah, and so real quick to, wrap this up, we got obviously the playoffs start next weekend. We'll dive more into that once everything is official. But looking at the plan that's coming up, we got the plan tournament that starts April 14th to the 17th. So we'll have the 7 and 8. The current 7 and 8 seeds battle for the 7 seed in the playoffs. And then we'll have the 9 and 10 fight for the 8 seed, but the 9 and 10 have to win 2 games. The winner of that game will play the loser of the 7 and 8. So this is the first time in the Eastern Conference. Start there. This is the first time in the Eastern Conference that the Hornets, Heat, Chicago Bulls annual play-in tournament will not happen, unfortunately. Of course, it had to be, this year that things were different. But the Bulls suck. Obviously they got a lot of other stuff going on over there. The Hawks, got better, and the Heat, they're staying put. So the 9-10, the East, the Heat, and the Hornets. And then we got Magic and the Sixers going on for the 7-8. But basically, who do you guys think is gonna come out of the playing tournament in the Eastern Conference right there?
I would like to see personally, I'm sick of watching the Magic play. I don't think they're a good team. They really need to they need to fire their coach, and then they also need to figure out what they're doing with their team. I'd rather watch, PG old ass play against the Celtics and Edgecombe try to go for 30 again against the Celtics. And then in terms of the Heat and the Hornets, I think we've all liked the Hornets in the last couple weeks of the season. The Heat, they had the one game this year where Bam dropped 83 and they were the talk of the town. But they're another team too where it's like, okay, I also do not really want to see either one of these teams play the Pistons, to be honest. But if I had to choose, I'd rather play the Hornets, who don't have that playoff experience and don't have a guy like Spolstra who actually knows how to go from the 8th seed all the way to the finals or whatever it is. So I'd rather play the Hornets. I guess they'd have to win 2 games, but I don't want to see the Magic in the playoffs regardless. That's just my opinion.
I respect that. I respect that though.
I don't hate it. It got a lot going on.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there on the 76ers pick though. I think they would win against that Magic team there. I would like them for sure. I do think the Hornets, I just think are a little bit better right now than the Heat. I don't think the Heat are just honestly playing that great. As a Pistons fan, like I'd be more scared to play actually Charlotte right now. I feel like their offense can really get going on any given day. So that's the thing with like again, I would feel confident, going against either of those teams though, as Pistons. But like the Hornets right there, that's just a team that I don't think you want to like, play around with. I think they can get hot offensively, and if they do, like you are in trouble. But like for me, yeah, I would have first, I have the Sixers and Charlotte coming out from the East there.
Yeah, I would like Nate's argument talking about the Orlando Magic. Yeah, the Orlando Magic are trash. I mean, they came into the season like after that whole Desmond Bain injury, and a whole bunch of people were like, "Yeah, man, we're the 3 seed. We're gonna be better than Boston." And y'all have fringe playing right now. Uh, so I think if they don't make the playoffs and they only get put out in this playing tournament, I think Jamal Mosley is definitely going to be fired. I also think that Paulo Banchero could be on the trade block. I would not be surprised if they try to move off from Paulo and say like, "Hey, Franz is the head guy," which I thought so too. I mean, you could tell when Franz was out for the season, like, or they just struggled. Paulo just struggled. Like one game, he's got to be one of the most. Him and Bam are one of the two most inconsistent players, in the league right now. You know, yeah, one game he'll drop 30, 35 on your head, then the next game he'll show 12. 12 points. And it's like, dude, come on. So, I mean, for being the number one pick and everything, I feel like maybe Orlando is not the place for him. I'm not like giving up and saying like, yeah, like he was a bust or something like that. But I just think, maybe the Orlando system isn't the best for him. Maybe he's got to move on. But that is one thing that I am keeping an eye on. So, yeah, no, but I do like, the Hornets and Pistons. I like the rivalry they've got going on there. I would love to see a fight in the playoffs. I think it would, that would be great. That would be awesome.
Real fight.
Hopefully, just no one gets ejected out the game.
Miles Bridges and Stu.
That would be a good one. That would be a good one there. Come on.
That would be a good one. That would be a good one. And then Miami. I mean, Miami just needs to. They're another team that needs to figure out what's going on. I think if I don't think they make it. to the 7 seed or 8 seed. I think Miami is another team that uh I don't Spo doesn't need to go, but it's just like either Bam needs to go, they need to like reset, they need to get rid of Pat Riley. I don't know exactly what it is, but whatever that Heat culture is that they got going over there, it's not working. They're just a playing team again and again and again. And I think they've been in the plan since they went to the finals. No, not the last time when they played Denver, but when they played the Heat in the bubble. I think that's the last time that they were not in the play-in tournament, which is crazy, basically, as that was the year that the play-in tournament started. So they've basically been in the play-in tournament every year
ever
except for
since.
that year. So that's crazy. But yeah, so that's the East there. And then the West, you got the Suns, Blazers, Clippers, Warriors. I think the Warriors are cooked. You know, no Jimmy, their bench consists of I mean, I couldn't even tell you their I was watching the Lakers Warriors game the other day, and the Warriors had like 3 players on their bench, and I was like, yeah, it's time to give it up, bro. It's done. It's cooked. So yeah, I think the Warriors, they're just gonna throw in the towel here. Steph might go crazy for 40 in that 9-10 game, but other than that, it's GG's. Um, Suns, I think, will be a good matchup for the Spurs, but I think, or excuse me, OKC, but I think it's a waxing. I would love to see the Clippers play the Spurs in the first round, though, just because it would be the first time that Kawhi has played the Spurs in the postseason since he's been traded. Which I think will be pretty interesting to see. Wemby versus Kawhi there, and I think Kawhi might be able to. I'm not saying they'll win, but like I said, Kawhi's
Mhm.
gonna drop 40 game one, 40 game five. It's gonna be a 6 game series. We gave it all, but the
And then
Spurs are
off to
probably gonna
Cancun.
win. Yeah, off to Cancun. Yes, sir. 6 games.
Oh man.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
funny.
no, I
Yeah,
do
that
think
I
the
don't think the
Clippers get
Warriors are.
by. I think Clippers get by. I think Warriors are unfortunately probably cooked, but we will get a good show from Steph. I think Steph will actually cook y'all for a nice little 40 piece like you mentioned there, but at the end of the day, I think Clippers still might win by double digits. I don't believe in the Warriors team
Mhm.
right now, but I am interested to see. I think Phoenix and Portland will be a good matchup though. I really do. At the end of the day, I don't know. I really don't have a pick in that one. I think Clippers are going to have a dogfight in that next round. I think personally, it's definitely not a guarantee for them to get in, but I am very curious to see who wins that first matchup between Phoenix and Portland. Um, would Sean, do you have a preference on who you would rather play as a Clippers fan? Would you rather play Portland or Phoenix?
I'd rather play neither because, like you said, they're probably that is a dogfight. And just real quick, last time the Clippers went to the play-in tournament, we played the Minnesota Timberwolves in that first game where then that was Pat Bev. He went on the stands and threw the jersey and was like, yeah, that was the last time. Then the next game, so I didn't play that game. Paul George did. But then the next game, Paul George was sick. Okay, then we played the Pelicans. We lost that game, so you're out. So yeah, so I could see something similar happening. This time. I think I'd rather play Phoenix though, just because I think Phoenix is a little bit more gettable, just because of their inconsistent of play. The Blazers, I'd say this last month and a half, have kind of been decent. That's the Scoot Henderson coming back healthy. Drew Holiday kind of picking it up a little bit better offensively. Denny Avdia, kind of having his breakout season once again. So I'd rather play Phoenix because I just don't like that Blazers matchup, and we've been struggling with the Blazers all year. I think yeah, it would be shrimp fried rice right there if the Blazers do do end up playing the Clippers.
Yeah, no, I agree with you guys. The only thing with the Blazers, I don't really see any benefit for them to win. Like, to be honest, you're not winning any rounds in the playoffs anyway. Dame's coming back next season for whatever that's worth, but just lose, try to get a better pick, and take what you had this year and go into next season. You can maybe say that with a lot of these playing teams, but especially for the Blazers who did have like an all-star player in Denny, like just just wrap it up, and get ready for next season because I'd rather see D Book and Dylan the Villain in the playoffs than Drew Holiday and Denny and Donovan Clingan against any of these. I don't want to watch Donovan Clingan play against Wemby or Chet, to be honest.
Gosh.
He's gonna get absolutely cooked in any of those matchups. So I'm just viewing it based on like a fan perspective right now and what would be the most fun to watch. And I do not think Portland would be fun to watch in the playoffs. But yeah, Clippers, Matherin's probably gonna drop 30 in the play-in against the the Warriors. And then they'll probably get their ass kicked against the Spurs or the Suns. And then yeah, lose the first seeded Thunder. But yeah,
That's
we'll see.
fine. The basketball fans and just hoops enthusiasts need to pray and hope that the Clippers do advance through the play-in tournament to the actual playoffs. Because if they lose, in the play-in tournament, then that pick is OKC's pick,
That's
and that
true. That is
pick
true.
is sitting there, for lottery right there,
Yeah.
which gives OKC better chances to retool, once again. So it is something I just thought about too.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a minute since we talked. I know, like, I'm excited for the playoffs. I don't really know right now if there's outright favorite. I mean, you could say OKC, but at the same time, like, a lot of these playoff matchups are going to depend on who's even in the lineup right now. I feel like
True.
there have been a little bit more of an influx of, and maybe that's because it's the end of the season. There's guys who are sitting out. They have these little tweaking, nagging injuries. But the playoffs are always fun to watch, regardless of if people say, like, the NBA isn't really that great of a product right now. I still think you're going to have some really good matchups in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree, Nate. I mean, I don't see like I think this year. I mean, I've been saying this probably for the last 3, 4 years, but I do think this year's playoffs is going to be a little bit interesting. Just because, I mean, the first round, you got some good matchups. I mean, we'll talk about it more later this week, but I mean that first round, we got some potentially great matchups, right out the gate. I just would like the playoffs not to be like it was when the Celtics won it, when it was just boring, and you kind of knew like, yeah, the Celtics were gonna win it, and they just kind of ran through the table, 5 games, 4 games, 5 games. They get to the final 6 games. So I hope that doesn't happen. But I mean, overall, yeah, I think this will be a great postseason. I'm looking forward to it. This is a couple guys like, this is their first, playoff atmosphere experience. So like, Wemby, that it's gonna be cool to see, him in the postseason for the first time. And then you got, the Pistons, their second time, they're looking to do better. The Hawks, what can they possibly do? The Cavs, with James Harden, can he finally get to the conference finals? Can the Cavs finally get past the second round? No, but just yeah, it'll be interesting to see, how everything, folds out, comes out, but yeah, this is I say this is the best time of year, man. This is the best time of year because you got NBA playoffs, the weather's warming up, and then once we're done with this, we got summertime, the time, be out in the sun, golf, and everything like that. So yeah, no, this is exciting times. So yeah, we'll definitely, get more into the playoff picture and everything, do our playoff predictions and stuff before the playoffs officially starts on this coming Saturday, April 18th. So, make sure you guys tune into that. We'll get, give our deep dive and see, who we got, advancing to the next round. Probably do it, yeah, round by round. But yeah, man, it'll like I said, I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be great. Uh, we'll keep you guys posted on everything like that. Until next time, we will get you guys.